Hi, I'm Mike Burgess from Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm speaking today about the 7 mistakes that we make in real estate, both myself and colleagues that I've worked with. And I want to share that with some of the audience so that hopefully their businesses can propel forward and not make the same mistakes that we have. Bought my first real estate property when I was 22. That's 32 years ago. So I've been on it part-time basis since then, and over the last 10 to 12 years, it's been more of a full-time basis. In my opinion, 2016 is going to be a phenomenal year for those that are prepared to pull the trigger. It all comes down to taking action. Personally, I'm investing in the Orlando area. It's just a personal choice that I want to be able to spend a lot more time in the winter months there. So that's my strategy. Thank you, Sunil. My name is Mike Burgess. I am from Dartmouth, the suburb of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Oh, awesome. So it's my pleasure to be on this stage today. It's my first time really speaking in front of a group on this topic, so it's my pleasure. I have been in the business for approximately 32 years. I was 22 when I bought my first real estate rental property, and I did that on a part-time basis. It was an awesome experience. And I wanted to share some of the mistakes that I've made or either my colleagues have made over the course of my career. Hopefully that's something that can fast track your businesses. And first of all, I want to just appreciate the fact that you're all in this room. There's other things that you could be doing, but you're in this room for a reason. There's something from within you that you see that you want more out of life, and I certainly commend each and every one of you for that. So hopefully there's something that I can bring of value from my experiences, my mistakes, that can help catapult your businesses forward and not go through those challenges that myself and my colleagues have gone through. So currently I have 10 properties in Nova Scotia, multi-units, 81 doors. One's a commercial property. I have 4 properties in the States, in Florida area, and I've acquired those over the... Thanks, my wingman. 4 properties in the States that I've acquired over the last couple of years, and that's my focus, is to grow in the Orlando vicinity. I want to be able to have a tax-deductible reason to get away from our Nova Scotia winters. I've been to several different functions. Smack it again? Yeah. Thanks. I've been to several different functions over the years, and one really stands out. There was a fellow that said, you know, every year, my wife and I are forced to have our annual meetings in corporate housing in Key West. And it's something that really resonated with me. I wanted to duplicate that. Anyway, I'll move into some of the mistakes that, as I said, that I've made or colleagues have made. The first one, and it's a huge no-no, if you're ever in any training, the first thing that they'll tell you, everybody will tell you, buy cash flowing properties. Well, when I was 22, I didn't do that. I figured, okay, well, you know, if I just get something, that'll be cool. It'll be paid for by the time I'm retired, and I'll have a little nest egg. Well, what happened? I purchased the property at a decent deal. We rented, fixed it up, raised rents, did all those right things. But when it was refinanced and the mortgage payments were coming out, what I found out is I had to throw in another $100 or $200 a month out of my paycheck just to end up make it break even, pay all the bills. So huge no-no. Make sure your properties are cash flowing. Second mistake is fear of not taking action. I can think of a couple that I've worked with over the last couple of years, and they'd attend every single one of these groups. I'm sure they've got binders and binders at home of notes of how to do this and how to do that, and you know, there'd be an awesome resource if I wanted to know a particular minute detail of something, they would certainly be the people that I would call. They analyzed markets, which was the right place to buy, which wasn't the right place to buy, but they just couldn't pull the trigger. So, we've heard earlier this morning, sometimes, don't go out and do things recklessly. Make sure you have the right deal, but be prepared to make a move. When we're kids, when we're walking, sometimes we fall down, we get back up, but that's how we learn how to run and to walk, is by making that first step. Make your first purchase and move on to the next one. The second one comes easier than the first. Sometimes they just come by accident. I've had people come up, there was one fellow that came up to me and he said, Mike, I'm thinking about selling my 4 neighboring properties. Yeah, I'd love to do that, but I have no idea how to do that because I am so tapped out. Banks won't look at me, I'm maxed out. We heard this morning about, and it's certainly true, there's a limit of what banks will do. Banks are very conservative and want to protect themselves. So there's many different approaches and avenues to be able to achieve your goals, whatever your goals are. And many of your goals in this room will vary, and that's okay, that's good. We all want different things from our lives and where we are. I have a couple of good friends that are my age that they've retired in the last 6 months. We heard earlier this morning about something about Freedom 55. Well, I'm 54 and I'm at the position in my life that I could go get a bunch of for sale signs and liquidate, and I could have that cash to live the rest of my life with my family if I chose to do that. But money's not everything. It's about choice, and for me that's why I've done what I've done. A lot of times the hard way. Really take advantage of why you're in this room and do this. Third mistake is don't overpay for a property. My strategy, most of my properties I've bought at a very discounted rate. They needed a lot of cosmetic repair. Paint goes a long way to fixing up things. Paint things, refinishing floors, that type of thing. Cosmetic stuff that you can increase rents. When you can increase rents, that's going to increase the value of your properties. That should be your goals. So now when I say don't overpay for properties, I do have one example that I paid market value for, and that particular one came along with, it was a turnkey operation that had been renovated. It had been, there was management company in place. There was financing to help overcome bank challenges. So there's sort of both sides to that coin. There are each deal you have to look at individually and say, okay, is this right? Is this in tune with what my goals are and what I want to do? Next mistake is leveraging, and this is sort of a two-part one. And when I talk about leveraging, I'm more of the money and the aspect of what you can do with it, those strategies. This is a two-part strategy. In my initial triplex that I bought, that I was putting money into each month, I wasn't in the position to be able to leverage myself and move quickly on to acquiring that next property. I had trapped myself because of that deal. So leveraging, it's important to do some, and then at the other end of the spectrum, it's critical not to over-leverage yourself. I have a colleague that he had a very aggressive 5-year plan. He wanted to acquire 5,000 doors in 5 years. Yeah. He did make it to year 3 and 3,000 doors, which is a phenomenal accomplishment. But the problem was, he had high financing costs, there was high vacancies, there was tenants that didn't pay, cost of staff. his properties were sort of spread out throughout a couple different provinces. Long story short, he ended up losing everything. So find that right balance of leverage. Don't go to the very, very tip of that branch of the tree. Leave yourself a little bit of contingency money, whether it's through a line of credit or something, to fall back on when that furnace goes, or when you have to do some damage to that roof, because those things do happen. Personally, that's, and it's been, and you'll hear that, have that contingency financing for those emergencies. I've usually done that in a line of credit, so it wasn't necessarily tying up money, but I did have access for those emergencies when I did need it. My next mistake is trying to do everything yourself. And this is really like me being at an AA meeting. I know I'm guilty of this. I have been, and I'm trying to overcome that, to let go and to delegate, because it really influences how much you can grow or can't grow when you're trying to do everything, micromanaging everything. Of course, we want to keep our eye on the prize. We want to be able to make sure that we're doing things the most cost-effective way that we can, that we're not wasting things. So we're growing as much as we can. One of my examples of not trying to do everything myself, I had one of my projects was a 12-unit apartment building. It had been closed up for 5 years, broken windows, doors, toilets, and boards on the windows, everything. So I had taken two $10 an hour guys, and I hammer in one hand and measuring tape in the other, and we worked at it day in and a day out, Saturdays, Sundays, 10, 12-hour days. And finished one unit, and then finished the rest of the units on one floor, started to rent them out, got a little bit of kind of money coming back in. Then we moved up to the next smack it? There you go. Okay. Moved up to the next floor and slowly rented it up. So I was really almost a couple of years before I had that property fully revitalized. While I had a neighbor that there was a 13-unit building that was out of control, and I could describe it as a war zone. So his strategy was completely opposite of mine. He came in and he evicted the remaining couple tenants that were there, lined up contractors to have new windows installed, siding put on, hardwood floors refinished, painted throughout. And he did that all within inside of 60 days. And in 90 days, guess what? He had money coming back in from all the tenants that he had re-rented these units to. So it was like, wow, did I ever do that one wrong? I was still working away with these two guys fixing this up. He had it refinanced, had a bunch of money come back from the bank to be able to go on to his next one. So, leveraging, it's a fine line. Sorry, trying to do it all yourself. Not using professionals. It's critical to have an accountant. It's critical to have a lawyer. There's so many different baseball caps and whatnot that we wear when we have these jobs, and we can't be specialists in every single facet. So take advantage of professionals and contractors to be able to, if you want to catapult your business ahead, utilize those professionals. Now they're going to cost you a few extra dollars, and a lot of cases, as I said, a lawyer or an accountant, those are doing things right the first time, so you don't have to come back and refix things later on down the road. Dealing with people you don't like or don't trust. I had another myself, I was partnered with a friend of mine in two 12-unit buildings, and we had had got a hold of a mutual friend of ours to do some repairs to the building. So he was working away, and we figured, okay, yeah, he's doing a good job. He's getting these things fixed for us. But then very quickly, he was having conversations with the our superintendent. He was having conversations with our tenants, saying, oh yeah, they're doing this wrong, they're doing that wrong. It just turned into a very toxic situation. You know, we were forced to do damage control. You know, people are either with you or you're not. So unfortunately, we had to come to our friend and say, look, this isn't working. This is a business. We have to make it work right. We can't continue with this. I'm not sure how our time is doing, so I'm just going to sneak in another little bonus mistake, and that is don't buy in bad areas. If your property is in a war zone, somewhere where it's a ghetto, if you see graffiti on walls,
upside down cars.
Absolutely, perfect telltale sign. That's another good one. That you're into some situations that you know you're gonna replace your air conditioner or something, and then you're gonna come back the next day and it's gone. That affects the quality of the tenant that you can get, and it's just a nightmare. It's one of those situations that can get you spiraling in a very toxic situation where your exit strategy trying to sell the property doesn't work. You know, so just be very careful of what areas you want. Ideally, it's good to have a working class tenant. Somebody that, if you can be in an area that is you know, partially owner-occupied situations, then you have a good, healthy community. It makes a difference in the caliber of your tenant. So anyway, that basically sums up my mistakes that I've observed, that others have. Other colleagues have made. So I hope there's something in there that resonates with you, that you can keep in mind in your journeys and real estate endeavors. That, hey, I want to move forward and not make that same mistake. So I again keep attending and networking and functions like this where you learn from others. Don't be the one that, like myself, spent 20, 25 years of my career thinking, gee, I'm the only one with challenges. You know, this is, how can that tenant do that to me? How can they not pay? You know, well, that's, okay, well, things happen, we just deal with it. When we have a network and can bounce things off of, it really, really helps. Just to sum up, with my strategy, I'm working with a partner of mine that has developed a system to acquire pre-foreclosed properties, and we're focusing in the Orlando area, and we're going to be in about the 50% value that we'll acquire them on. We're going to be in the position that we're not going to be able to purchase all of that's what's going to be available. So if this is something that's of interest to you, please see me over the course of the next day or tomorrow, and we can keep in touch and sort of let you know what's available if that's something that's of interest to you. So I'm still waiting for my sign that says I've got 5 minutes left, and that basically is all I have, folks. You've been
Have you had a bad experience with insurance?
A bad experience with insurance? Not. I haven't personally. No. Okay, we were supposed. We'll take questions till I'm cut off. So yes, sir, Sam.
How have you structured your properties, the ones that you bought in the US?
I have. That's something that you should talk to a lawyer and accountant. Mine personally are held in a LLP, which is owned by a U.S. Holding company. So it's that particular one shelters me fine for protection from being sued and whatnot, but it's a little bit more costly from a tax perspective. Okay, I can cut it off anytime. Okay, take it away. Thank you very much.